I call the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Opposition will not be supporting this resolution. Madam Speaker. So, I was most interested in particular in the contribution of the Foreign Minister, where she talks about deserving better. I tell you what this nation deserves. It deserves better from this government than what we are hearing. And I agree with some of what has been said about the distinguished career of General Campbell. Wait a second. Madam Speaker.
We'll have quiet on my right so we can hear from the Leader of the Opposition.
I agree that he has had a distinguished and decorated career in a service of the Australian military. I recognise that he has been a squadron commander in the SAS, a remarkable achievement if he never did anything else. I recognise that he is a qualified paratrooper, a remarkable qualification. I recognise that under Labor he was in charge of our Middle Eastern forces and he did a great job there. I believe, Madam Speaker, I do not know why when I speak well of General Campbell the government interrupt. But what I do also recognise about General Campbell is that he should not be treated as some sort of political target. We fundamentally reject. Madam Speaker, what a disorderly rabble this government are. So we recognise on this side of the House that General Campbell, and indeed everyone who serves in our armed forces, be it in Australia or overseas, is deserving of respect from the political process. I have certainly on any number of occasions, as we've been discussing in the public and the policy issues around sovereign borders, Operation Sovereign Borders, have clearly stated that I do not regard our military as deserving of being the whipping boys or girls when there are legitimate concerns with government policy. Although it's very rare, there was part of what the Assistant Minister for Defence said, which I will agree with. It's very rare and it was very small. But when he said that if the opposition has problems with what is happening with government policy, raise it about the government and not attack the military. I have seen from my working life, when there is complex political issues, it is most easy for the blame game to rain down from the top to the bottom. I do not support using the military or hiding behind the military where there are problems with government policy. Now, I accept those opposite think that their policy is great, and I accept that we on this side believe that the addiction to secrecy is wrong. I do not accept that the use of the military by the government to hide their own lack of willingness to talk about what's really going on and be straight with the Australian people is appropriate. But the flavour of the debate which came from the Minister for Foreign Affairs is that somehow the government, somehow the opposition, does not support our military is wrong. It is a grievous mistruth, and that is why this morning, when I was asked questions about the debate in the Estimates Committee last night, I made it very clear that Senator Conroy has withdrawn his remarks. And he has withdrawn his remarks, and people said, well, what does that mean and what do you think? I believe the fact that Senator Conroy made the comments and then withdrew them speaks for itself. There is a recognition in this debate, and if anyone bothers to read the whole transcript, Senator Conroy is most concerned about the way the government is handling issues of secrecy around Operation Sovereign Borders. But when we see this feigned, patriotic, wrap the flag around yourselves, and the government saying we're true patriots, and anyone who criticises the government is in fact criticising the military, which makes them unpatriotic or un-Australian, we're not falling for that lie. They say that patriotism is the last refuge of scoundrels, and we are seeing that truism yet again with the government. I respect our military, and like many here, I've had family members serve in the military. and I understand the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice that 40 of ours have made in Afghanistan. I understand that 200... Minister for Foreign Affairs, I'm talking about the sacrifice of our soldiers. You could at least listen to that with respect. I understand. Look at the government frown, as if they have a monopoly on patriotism. 40 people have died in Afghanistan. I know this, and I know everyone on the other side knows this too, actually. And I know that all of us in this House respect the 260 people who've come back with injuries. And I know all of us in this House respect that there are many more people who will no doubt be dealing with the consequences and the psychological trauma of war for the rest of their lives. But what Labor will not allow in this debate is the faux patriotism where somehow when the opposition pursues the government on its policies, that somehow this is a reflection of Labor's commitment to our armed forces. And yes, I was quoted correctly on January the 23rd when we heard reports about alleged events involving Navy personnel on the high seas. I said there, and I set my line in the sand earlier as opposition leader, I do not have a default button which says that when there is problems, blame the military, because I don't think that. And I resent very much the cowardly insinuations of some of those false flag-waving patriots to say that we on this side do not care as much about the military. And that is why at the start of my address to this House I made it very clear what I think about General Campbell, and that is why before this afternoon I have already made efforts to be in contact with him to indicate on behalf of Labor our ongoing respect and support for him, because you know what? I think that is the right thing to do. But when we go through the sanctimonious, finger-wagging, lecture-giving, sermonising, false patriotism, where those opposite would seek to use the military as a stick to beat Labor about the head with, when I heard the Minister for Foreign Affairs say people deserve better, General Campbell deserves better than having you use him as a political football to pursue your grubby culture of secrecy. Our military deserve better than having you hide behind uniforms rather than the minister actually do his day job and tell us what is going on. The military deserve better than the government being told on the morning of Saturday that what they said on Tuesday and the implied blame of Reza Barati that he was outside the wire and somehow he had to take his own chances, and if he'd stayed in the wire he would have been safe. And then on the Saturday morning we find out, or at least the government finds out, that maybe what they said just definitively wasn't wrong. Then somehow they wait till past the 6 o'clock newses on Saturdays to come out with the facts of the matter. You know, when we want to give a lecture about morality, you do not live in a glass house, members of the government. And what I also know is that in 2007, when Chief of Army General Gillespie was at estimates, it was Senator Ronaldson who called him a coward. Now, I am sure, given his time again, Senator Ronaldson might have chosen his words differently, I am sure. But what we never did in this place is seek to use debate and estimates to somehow make a lie of the Labor Party's support for the men and women in our military. And you know what? You can fight the next election, but do not, and you can try in your best to attack us on your policies, but do not ever try and, Senator, Mr Barnaby, just say nothing and leave us wondering if you know what you're talking about. What I really object to is what I really object to, Madam Speaker, what I really object to is we in this parliament and the Australians who put us here deserve a bit better than the kindergarten, flag-waving, faux patriotism which you guys want to wrap yourselves around. Every Australian Labor Party member loves this country as much as you do. Every Australian Labor Party member of Parliament supports our military. Every Australian Labor Party member will never give up in holding you to account. And the fact that you choose to try and hide behind this sort of military patriotism, when in fact there is no daylight between yourselves and ourselves, you should be better than that. Stick to your day job of trying to run your ministries and stop trying to smear and politicise the Australian military. We're onto your trick and the Australian people are too.